This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
It's a new year, so you know what that means. That means a new season. It's season 4. Intro a little revamped, microphone a little revamped, branding a little revamped. We're now officially the Pass BT pod. So welcome all Spotify,
Buzzsprout,
Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and all podcast platforms. Here you're going to get a flavor of sports, music, tech, video games. Once in a while, we'll get an Ass of the Week and a new part that's going to be coming in. It's not mentioned on the season 3, but we do what's called Pass the Message. So definitely you want to tune in and get some good content on the Pass with your host BT. What is up? What's good? Episode 308 of The Pass is here. As always, I'm your host BT with yet another episode, and I am here to tell you all that even though we just did our last show back on Thursday, I'm glad to return to give you more content. This is kind of that adjustment of like the short week based on how my schedule and my routine works for doing the show. And I kind of had a thought of looking at, man, it would be good to do the show on Thursday, but then I also don't want to rush to do a show Thursday, rush to do editing and all that stuff. So in the time frame from when we last recorded up until now, a lot has happened. So this will be that safe space at that point of recording and doing a show. Anybody who has or hasn't been listening, and I want to make sure I get this out of the way early. If you are, or if you've been a supporter on any of my podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Radio Public, wherever you've been listening to the show, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for taking time. I have gotten some feedback on a couple of shows, and I've definitely been working harder and harder on getting content to be in a more consistent manner and not as, I guess you could say, rushed. So that's been something that I personally have made a goal to not, I've made it my goal to not lower or lessen the value of the show. And you'll see what I mean when I break down the Pass the Message, because this show is going to be more of a chill show. I've found some stories. I've gotten a couple things that have hit at the time when they did. So definitely going to get into those as we progress with this episode. So without further ado, we'll go ahead, as I always do each week or each episode, we'll do our angel number. Today's angel number is number 308, since we're on episode 308. The angel number 308 is a sign of integrity. You may be finding yourself in situations that are causing you to lie or be dishonest, and worst of all, steal. The angels are encouraging you to cut off all things that may have to do with these evil things. If it is a job, quit. If it's a job, quit, as God will provide for you. If it is a partner, then leave this person, as no one should cause you to compromise your honesty. The archangels will always protect and guide you. Truth and sincerity are often associated with angel number 308. This is a sign that if you have been dishonest for a period of time, stop. Begin to make peace with the people whom you have wronged. Begin to start telling the truth at all times. Create ways in which you are not compromising who you should be, which is honest. Angel number 308 is a symbol of fruitfulness and satisfaction. Courage is a sign from angel number 308. You have been desiring to pursue your dreams and desires, but fear is beginning to cripple you down. Understand that the angels will always be there to protect you. But you need to find the courage in your heart to overcome what the mind may be saying to you. Eliminate all fear and worries. Pursue what your heart desires and always know that the angels will be there to protect you at all times. Living a life of abundance is a symbol from angel number 3, number 0, and number 8. This brings about joy and happiness and allows you to always be at peace. The angels want you to know that when you practice living life, abundance is not so far behind. As well, encourage those around you to live their lives freely, knowing that their future is fully dependent on today. Angel number 308 is assuring you that all your financial needs will be met. Trust in God. Call out on the angels as often as you can. When you are faithful with the little you have, the angels have no choice but to bless you. Begin to be fruitful today and see how your life will change moving forward for the better. This is a very powerful angel number. And I know each week y'all probably like, every week's not a powerful number. What makes you think this week is any different? And I'll give you, I'll let you run that one and rock with that. And that's totally fine. But I personally will be the first to say, especially with a lot of the quotes or a lot of messages that I've come across or ran into, even since our last recording, a lot of them have been very targeted or very geared toward a lot of what's being shared. My biggest quote that got a lot of attention, I found this on someone else's page. It said, "Stop getting in your own way." That one definitely hit a nerve and definitely brought me to forefront of what is and where I'm at with my journey and with my process. And I'm not going to sit here and make it like I'm perfect. I'm still learning and I'm still growing. And that's what we all should be doing as we live our lives. A friend of mine, Jess, who has been like fam for a long time. And it's crazy when you run into people or you connect with folks or reconnect, it becomes like a good energy or a good space. She put up a post about a week ago. And at the time, I really didn't grasp or gather it in its moment. And it basically said, some of you are sleeping on skills and talents that can make you a millionaire. Wake up. And that's what I'm beginning to learn to do more, is just wake up and stop saying things and start doing more things. It's one of the posts that I did find, and I think this one was probably the one that really set the tone and also made me understand a lot better of how to approach my routine and or approach things as they happen. And I believe, let me see if I have it, because it may not have been on this app. But when I found it, it literally spoke to where I was at and where I'm looking to go with a lot of what I'm doing. So let me see if I can find it. There we go. Productivity pro tip: close this app. So whatever that app is that you have open, or whatever that program is that you're working on, if it's stopping you from getting something else done, then that could be an issue and or concern. I'm going to learn, since this is I won't even say a rebrand, but this is a bit of a new direction with the podcast. I've changed some designing within where I record, and I still have my Evernote. Any of you all who know me know I'm an Evernote addict. Love Evernote. Personally, if I can get sponsored by Evernote, that would be a great dream come true. But Evernote has been very resourceful to me. And a friend of mine, she made a frame, which I was able to find a compromising way to still keep that frame to be noticed, which says, "I'm not being rude. I'm taking notes in Evernote." And it has the infamous elephant theme, or the elephant logo for Evernote. Well, I did find a poster that I've been talking about getting this poster for a while, but I'd seen different people have it, and I'm like, I want to get my own. So I did get the poster, and I was able to today get a frame to put the poster in, because I didn't want to just put the poster on the wall and that be the end of it. So it is referencing to rest in peace Kobe Bryant, referencing the Mamba mentality and the mantra, which what I'll do is, when we get to a point, it may not be at the same point every episode, but the mantra says, "A constant quest to be the best version of oneself." And that is going to be something that I will work on and be working on as every episode continues and as every recording becomes more fluid and more consistent with what I'm doing. I want to give this show the energy it deserves, and I have, but I haven't. And so I want to make sure that I'm not just saying that, I'm actually fulfilling that and doing that. So if you as I mentioned before, if you give any feedback or have any feedback, the passbtpod@gmail.com. Please give any input, any feedback on that. All right, we've gotten all of the fun, basic things out of the way. We'll go ahead and get into our weekly picks. If you've been keeping up, I will say it was interesting because my strongest hope of maybe possibly salvaging a good 50% record for last week was all tied into the last game on Monday night between the Bucks and the Rams. The Bucks ended up losing, so that ended up putting me at 6-8 for this week. Didn't have one of the best weeks. I'll say I know Cincinnati was a shocker because Joe Burrow got injured. He's out for the remainder of the season. I believe I do have a topic where I will be talking about that on the show. Miami losing was a shocker. Green Bay's loss kind of blindsided me, and Minnesota losing to Dallas was one that I wasn't prepared for either. Right after we recorded our last show, Arizona, and I believe I was editing and prepping as Arizona and Seattle were playing. So I watched that game and kind of had a little bit of love-hate about, the end result, but it is what it is. So that was how that went. Baltimore did lose in overtime, which now draws questions and concerns for their upcoming game on Thursday, which we'll get to in a moment. So as I mentioned, I was 6-8 for the week, 51-36-1 for the season, which puts me right now at about a 60% average. And I'm hoping that I can get up to 65% by the end of the season. Hopefully there's going to be a week. I know it's a reach, but though a week can come along where I maybe miss possibly one or two games, but usually it doesn't work out that way. So we'll see how this week plays out with our weekly picks. And without further ado, I won't give you too much of a long drawn out breakdown. We will go ahead and get into those picks. So we'll start off with our Thursday night or Thursday afternoon Thanksgiving matchups. Houston will be playing Detroit. I'm probably going to shock people because I know Detroit doesn't play the best all the time on Thanksgiving Day, but I'm actually going to pick Detroit for that game. I don't know if it's that. I'm not pushing or pressed on the Houston run yet, but I'm going to pick Detroit for that matchup. Even with them winning their last game, I believe it was against, they beat New England. So, I mean, yeah, it's possible, but I don't know. I'm seeing Detroit winning that match. Washington football team at Dallas. Dallas coming off of a big win against Minnesota, as I mentioned earlier, and Washington actually winning their last game. It's now becoming battle of the three. And I had this conversation with a couple of fans of football. It's tough when you're watching teams who are all 3-7 try to get a number one seed to possibly win a division. And this is what I always say about that division time and time again. So with that being the case with this game, even with Washington being on the road and thinking that they could possibly go into Dallas Stadium and win, I'm just not seeing it. I'll go ahead and get this one to Dallas. The late game, Baltimore at Pittsburgh. Baltimore coming off of a shocking loss. I already mentioned that earlier. And Pittsburgh still 10-0. I still think Pittsburgh can possibly run the table. Until they tell me otherwise, until they get that first loss, I'm sticking with Pittsburgh for a while. Going into our Sunday matchups, starting with our 1:00 games. Cleveland at Jacksonville. Jacksonville's only is still 1-9, so I'm going to pick Cleveland for that one. Carolina at Minnesota. Carolina came off of a big win. Minnesota also came off of a big win, as I mentioned, with Dallas. Yes, I'm going against my team because they are on the road. I'm going to pick Minnesota for that matchup. Miami. Oh, and before I forget, because I don't want to ignore this, the Baltimore and Pittsburgh game has a bigger impact too, because a lot of players may be out due to testing positive for coronavirus, or I'm sorry, for COVID-19. So that the Ravens did give an update stating that they are getting their facility cleaned and prepared for, what may or may not be involving that outbreak. Moving forward, Arizona at New England. Kyler Murray is a good player. It's at New England. This is that point of the season where New England got to turn it on, because they still need to try to get a playoff seed, which is going to be very pivotal, because this could be that year that Belichick may not make the playoffs. But I think they have a good chance depending on how they run the rest of their games. So I'm going to pick the Patriots for that one. I know how to spell. Las Vegas at Atlanta. I looked at this game before recording the show, and the first thing that stuck to me was I want to see I'm sorry, my bad. Before I forget, Miami plays the Jets. I'm picking Miami. We'll move forward. Jets still haven't won a game. I feel like they're going to still go 0-16 for the year. That's my strong take. Take it or leave it. Las Vegas at Atlanta. When I looked at this game, this is one of those games that I said could be an upset because of their division and how Atlanta plays, and they're at home. So I don't know. Las Vegas on the road has been and then it's also with Derek Carr we're going to see. So I'm picking the Falcons for that one, and if I take an L for it, then so be it. LA Chargers at Buffalo. I'm picking Buffalo for this one. Buffalo needs the win. Apparently, they've been going through their fair share of struggles. I know the last time I did pick them, they lost. So maybe if they lose another one, then that might bring me back down the road of saying, hey, I gave y'all 2 chances and y'all let me down, so it's time to let it go. New York Giants at Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to pick the Giants for this one. As I mentioned already, Burrow's out for the rest of the season, which we'll get into that story in a bit. But the Giants have been looking pretty good, so that'll leverage things even more in the NFC North division, which we know is just an ongoing, or the NFC East rather, excuse me. Tennessee at the Indianapolis Colts. I easily could look at this and say possible game of the week. Tennessee did pull off a stunning upset, or not an upset, but a stunning finish in their matchup last week with Baltimore. So with that being the case, I'm gonna pick them this week. I want to see them go ahead and get this season up and at them, and possibly really make a run towards the playoffs. I think the Colts will still get a shot of getting in the playoffs, even if they don't get in as a division leader. They could possibly make it as a wild card. New Orleans at Denver. New Orleans they're looking to start. They're not going to start Jameis Winston there. I believe they're starting the other kid. I can't remember his name. He had like a big breakout season last year. Made a couple Wildcat plays, which was a big deal. Even with them being on the road going to Denver, I'm still going to pick the Saints for this one. Let's see. And by the way, we're in our 4:00 games. San Fran at the Rams, LA Rams. I'm going to pick the Rams on this one. I want to see San Fran turn that corner and flip that switch, but they just haven't shown me any motivation or incentive to do so. So until otherwise noted, I'm going to pick the Rams for this one. What many may consider to weirdly be the game of the week, even with their records, Kansas City at Tampa Bay. Now, it's hard for me to pick Tampa Bay. It's hard for me not to see Tampa Bay as a good win for this game because of Tom Brady. But they also lost Monday night to the Rams. So I don't really know if they're going to bring it against the Chiefs, who are also in the same division as Tampa Bay. As the LA Rams. I still like Mahomes. Like Mahomes is still the real deal until otherwise noted. So I'm not giving giving any pushback about it. Until they show me otherwise, I'm picking the Chiefs on this one. The late night game, Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay took a shocking upset last week. I'll just have to live with this one, but I'm going to pick Chicago for that win, for that matchup. And for the Monday night game, Seattle at Philly. Seattle's been showing it time and time again on the road. I think they'll stick to their script. So I'm picking Seattle for this matchup. So those are our picks for this week. We will see how great or how horrible I do with my normal figuring out how to pick players or pick teams, and we will go from there. But that is what I have. So we'll move forward into our big story or a big chunk of the weekend on, let's see, today's Tuesday. So the NBA draft was last Wednesday. Free agency conversations started and ramped up on Thursday. By Friday, we started to see some free agency action happen. And a lot of guys made some major moves. Now, I have the list and the breakdown of a lot of them, so I'm going to try to go through as many of them as I can. And we'll just kind of unpack what I see or could see coming down the line with a lot of these. Montrezl Harrell going to the Lakers is going to be very huge. I don't think people really get it or see it now, but that one is going to be one that might surprise a lot of players or a lot of teams or a lot of fans for that matter. Clarkson he's staying with the Jazz. Derek Favors is going back to the Jazz. Gallinari signed with the Hawks. Dwight Howard kind of made his announcement clear that he was leaving LA. He said bye LA, or it was some post put of that sort. He's going to Philadelphia. Markieff Morris is staying with LA. Christian Wood went to the Rockets in a signing trade. Joe Harris stays with the Nets. Big story that everyone did want to know or figure out. And I'm sorry, before I forget, Marcus Morris, twin brother Markieff Morris, signed with the Clippers. Enes Kanter goes back to Portland. Let's see, Dragic and Leonard are gonna be staying with the Heat. Ricky Rubio comes back to Minnesota, which I'm looking forward to that. That'll give some good. That will give some veteran leadership to Anthony Edwards as well. Whether you really see it or understand it now or not. Jeremy Grant going to the Pistons. I don't know how to feel about that one yet. The Pistons are always that questionable team of what are they going to do or how will they look. Day 2 was where all the excitement happened. Van Vliet did sign an extension with Toronto. Serge Ibaka left Toronto. He's going to join his fellow championship running mate in LA with the Clippers. So they're going to get that ball rolling again. Rajon Rondo, I believe, went to Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. I want to make sure I'm giving this the correct breakdown. Yes, Rondo went to the Hawks. Jay Crowder went to the Suns, which I'm surprised by that, especially with him leaving Miami, because you were already on a championship team or a team that made the finals. So that one kind of surprised me. The story of all stories, and it's interesting because I found an article on Bleacher Report that broke down the winners and losers from the draft. And the winners and the losers, majority of the losers were related to what was related with Gordon Hayward. And Gordon Hayward came out the biggest winner because of the contract. 4 years, $120 million. I'm going to say it because I feel like it just needs to be said. He got overpaid. I also know that it's the NBA, so they got the money to do it. I get that too, but I just don't think that paying him that kind of money is going to, unless they're expecting to get some type of basketball out of him that I'm never gonna see again. I'm just not sold on it yet with him, and maybe I need to kind of see it through. But the challenge. Okay, here's the challenge with this deal. And I'm going to just name a couple of players, and this is going to kind of make sense out of it all. Miles Miles Bridges. They got rid of Batum. LaMelo Ball. Gordon Hayward. Bacon. All four of those guys right off, just those four players alone, all play small forward. So that alone draws a concern to me whether people want to make it a concern or not. And I'm going to kind of dive a little bit with this so I can get you all to see where I'm going with this. Let's make sure I got everything right. Yeah, PJ Washington. Yeah, okay, so you got PJ Washington. They list LaMelo Ball as a point guard, but his height, I mean, if he plays point guard, great. I don't get it. So you have Miles Bridges, you have Caleb Martin, Cody Martin, you have PJ Washington. They don't have him listed specifically yet, but they have him as forward. Gordon Hayward. All of these guys play small forward. I think I mentioned Miles Bridges already. Nicholas Batum is going to be released for cap space because they needed to release him in order to bring him over, to bring Hayward over. Then you're also looking at who they got out of the draft. They got LaMelo out of the draft. They got Vernon Carey. They got Nate Darling. All I hope, which I don't see it happening with LaMelo, but I could see it happening more so with, I just hope I don't see it with the other two players. I just hope no one gets sent to the G League, because that then pushes and makes the purses, that pushes and makes the process a lot more challenging in how this all possibly can be approached. So, it's still early. It could all work itself out, or it may just, this is definitely going to be what you would want to call that. Let's wait and see, and let's keep our eyes on how this all is handled. One trade that did occur, and I forgot to mention, Caldwell Pope did re-sign with the Lakers. There has been no word yet of Anthony Davis signing with LA yet, but he turned down the initial 4th year or 5th year option of the deal that he initially had from when he was with New Orleans. So we're seeing how that's going to go, because LeBron would love to know what he's planning on doing. So we'll look forward to what that end result could possibly become. So here's the breakdown. I'm going to give the full breakdown of the Jrue Holiday trade, because it was talked about, it got attention, but we really didn't know who was being traded and where any of it was going. So here's the full synopsis. Milwaukee will get Jrue Holiday and Sam Merrill, who was part of this year's draft. New Orleans will get Steven Adams, that's a steal. Eric Bledsoe, which is a question mark, because we still are waiting to see potential All-Star Eric Bledsoe. We haven't seen potential All-Star Eric Bledsoe since he was in Phoenix. So if we get that in New Orleans, great. A good point that was brought up before I continue, or forget to mention this. What makes this all even more interesting is now, with the roster being revamped like it has been for New Orleans, this now makes Zion the most experienced player with New Orleans, or the player that had the longest tenure with the team. Because Brandon Ingram came over part of a trade for Anthony Davis, and they already had drafted Zion before then. So that kind of knocks that out. Him and Lonzo still would be like 2 or 2A or whatever. But Zion, they said, is the longest tenured player on the team, which tells you a lot about the roster they have or are working towards or whatever. Oklahoma City gets George Hill, Josh Gray, Kenrich Williams, Zillan Cheatham, Darius Miller. Their 2023 protected first pick from Denver and 2 second-round picks. And then Denver gets RJ Hampton. Now, what all this means is these are going to be picks. Like a lot of these players that OKC got, they will likely be signing trades, or they will place them as free agents and they may buy out their contracts, and that'll cause them to become free agents again. Holiday joining the team brings that veteran leadership, I guess. That's kind of the biggest thing that I've seen come about from this story or this conversation. But there's nothing like extravagant that I've caught onto with this. And I did forget to mention Marc Gasol is going to LA. So I brought this up on my personal Twitter page. Marc Gasol, the Lakers were able to get Marc Gasol and Pau Gasol for pretty much next to nothing, and it's true. DeMarcus Cousins was able to get a 1-year deal with Houston. Right now, you're going to see 1-year deals come up for him until you get a fully healthy DeMarcus Cousins, which I 100% agree with and 100% understand. So I personally don't give any pushback or fight about that at all. I don't. It's no need to, because it kind of speaks for itself, or it tells the story without telling the story. Let's see. Kent Bazemore is going back to the Warriors. Mitchell's got a contract extension. They're talking right now with Bam about getting a possible extension. They did make mention of this a couple of days ago that De'Aaron Fox signed a max deal. And I always have to remember and knowing the distinction between max versus supermax, because your max deal is on the basis of you finish your rookie contract, let's pay you. Whereas your supermax is, hey, you looked good for this many years, we're trying to keep you, let's go ahead and pay you while we can. So that's how that all went. And Gasol is there for 2 years. McGee is going to the Cavaliers. Tristan Thompson went to Boston. I want to make sure I remember that story as well. They kind of came out in an even deal with making sure they didn't lose anything from letting Gordon Hayward go. And you know, granted, he's not the best shooter, but at least he's going to get some rebounds to create plays for Tatum and Kemba. Next season, I'm going to keep a very close eye on Kemba and Tatum stats. And I know I usually say this during podcasts, but this one I actually mean it. Like, I really want to see how they're going to develop or become cohesive as teammates. So that's all I got on the NBA. We're a few days away from, we're actually a couple of weeks away from the NBA season starting. Maybe some more stories that break. If any other big contracts or big stories come up, I'll implement them in as I always do. I shared this early on in the show, and I feel like I've talked about it multiple times, and it's not that I feel, that I was trying to like staple it as a story, but I wanted to be sure that it was known. Joe Burrow's rookie season has officially ended. He was carted off the field after an injury. He suffered a left leg injury in the third quarter. He was hit by 2 defenders for Washington, which left him on a 3rd and 2 attempt. He sent out a message thanking people for support and just confirming that he was done for the year. And it's kind of the basis of where we are with that. I really, as I always say all the time, you don't want to wish the worst on anybody. I definitely do wish and give positivity on him having a speedy and positive recovery from this injury, because the main thing you want to look at is when a player comes back, that they come back in full strength and full health. I believe we talked about it earlier a couple weeks ago when when OBJ got hurt. You don't want to hear, you never want to hear that a player gets hurt, but in the process of hearing that news, you do want the best for them in coming back, but to not rush. The NFL isn't going anywhere. Like I've said this numerous times about basketball. The NBA is not going anywhere. The NFL is not going anywhere. You're going to be coming back, and you'll, be welcomed in with open arms. It's not like you're going to be banned and not allowed to play ever again from an injury. So that's what I wanted to say on that story, and we'll move into our stuff. Our stuff is a little chill this week, but there are a couple things that kind of stood out to me, and before I forget to mention it, please be sure to keep an eye open on anyone who's looking for Black Friday deals, looking for Cyber Monday deals. Keep an eye out for those deals. If there are deals that you need to physically get from stores, 2 ways that you can do this. If you're all about calling stores, I have no problem with that. But if you can, download that store's app and keep an eye out for deals as well, because that's how you get a lot of promos. The other cheat code, and I know my mom has presented this before, and this is the easiest way to get the inside scoop before anybody else. Email, like providing emails. Now, granted, that turns into the data collection, the data mine algorithm, which I'm not going to get into on this episode, but it's relevant and very key in if you're trying to find a deal. A lot of times deals get sent out that way before they send them out to online suppliers or online third party merchants or vendors to promote, hey, let others know that this is the deal we have coming at this set time of the year. So just look out for those things as they occur and as they land in your feeds and as you start to see it. You will see the internet and social media algorithms adjust according to these things as well. One other thing before I get into our stuff, I will say week 1 of No Facebook has been different, but I actually have not. It hasn't been as bad as I thought it would be. And I guess it's because I've kind of realigned myself and realizing that I am going to be moving with not, like a lot of people are like, you're not going to try to fight to get your page back. And I'm like, nah, I really don't see the urge or the need. And I think a lot of it too has to do with I'm able to promote myself in other avenues, as well as the fact that it gives me time to focus on my crafts, which I have not focused on at all for 2020. And that's something that I definitely will be planning to discuss and address for the year in review. So you definitely, if you haven't listened to one of those podcasts, definitely go back and listen to any of them that I've done over the years. This one is going to be different because I believe it will actually be the first year I have a guest on for the year in review. So I want to get all that out of the way before we get into our stuff. First stuff is Charli D'Amelio has reached the 100 million TikTok mark in followers. Now, I just went on Jason Derulo's page probably a few hours ago. And when I saw that he made it to 40 million, that in and of itself was like a huge achievement by far. So you definitely gotta give credit where credit is due. I'm not gonna downplay or ignore who has or hasn't done what, but the fact that she's reached 100 million is amazing. Only 2 other creators have cracked 50 million. On TikTok, that makes her more than twice as big as Will Smith, 3 times as big as The Rock, 4 times as big as Selena Gomez, and 5 times as big as Kylie Jenner and Ariana Grande. It also means she reached 100 million subscribers in record time. On YouTube, it took 14 years before any channel hit 100 million. D'Amelio only started posting to TikTok in May of 2019, and the app has been available since August 2018. It's a huge milestone for both her and the app, but it also comes at a time when Charli and her family are increasingly trying to move beyond TikTok. Recent months have seen the launch of a podcast, further expansion into YouTube, the announcement of a book deal, and more. Creators frequently branch out onto other social networks and into more traditional media formats once they found success on one platform. It lets them broaden their reach, talk to fans in more places, and provide some amount of insurance should one platform make a change that hurts their ability to thrive. YouTube creators, for example, have seen algorithm changes come and go that seem to prioritize the latter and later de-emphasize certain genres of video. And this just kind of breaks down like her reaching and amassing this goal. Hopefully she, continues with it and utilizes the platform to its worthwhile ability. A few days ago, I was having like just a thought bubble and looking at different people who have done various things such as AT&T having their television service, or Xfinity, obviously, they already have the television package. I wouldn't be surprised if Sprint already was doing TV, but now with Sprint and T-Mobile kind of doing their merger, this one I kind of saw coming. T-Mobile's T-Vision Live service gets more channels as a short-term fix for contract disputes. This is being looked at as a holiday deal. They're adding 33 channels from its $10 per month T-Vision Vibe service for free to all of its pricier T-Vision Live plans as it deals with ongoing complaints from cable companies like Discovery over how it offers channels. As Variety notes, T-Mobile's press release frames the newly added channels as a holiday deal, but the reality is likely a little bit more complicated. It's a temporary solution as T-Mobile works to deal with issues raised by its cheaper $10 per month Vibe plan, which offers channels from AMC, Discovery, and Viacom at a dramatically lower cost. Let's face it, anyone who's like, cable is cable, right? We're going to watch what we can, when we can, and how we can. But we're also going to find avenues and options on getting television at a lower cost if we can get it even if we can get it for free. So that will consist and could consist of companies finding that shorter way to get to that bag, or get to that opportunity. And that's just kind of what this is, or where this all comes from, how it came about. I'm not really gonna give a lot of, like, I would just say read that article and kind of get your breakdown and thoughts on it along your time. Amazon Music is adding a behind the scenes trivia by utilizing what's known as an X-ray feature. They're adding a new X-ray feature to a streaming service, which lets you see extra pieces of trivia about the music you're listening to. The feature is available globally across tens of millions of songs, and Amazon says these are extra fun facts available for popular songs in the US and UK. X-ray isn't an entirely new feature for Amazon. It's already available in the company's Prime Video streaming service, where it shows information like which actors are in the current scene, and it's previously been able to show real-time lyrics for songs in Amazon Music. This is something that most streaming services already are offering, or it's kind of something to keep you, to say what I was saying, and gravitated towards their listening. So like if you listen to certain songs on Spotify, they may have they'll show you the lyrics to the song, which then they may break down what that lyric means and what it all entails while you're listening to the song. They go over in this article how you can go about reaching, or how you can go about getting this actual, how you would get the actual X-ray feature to work on each of your specific tracks. Next story is, and this is kind of like the full circle story, because if you look at it, not long ago we were talking about Mario being 35 and the Mario's 35th anniversary game coming out, and how big of a deal that was. Well, on November 20th, which was last Friday, Microsoft Windows turned 35 years old, which tells a huge evolution of the Windows-based format. Like if we look at it, at that time it was Windows 1, which was more so a MS-DOS version of Windows at the time. Most people who use Windows remember or can recall, if they were from that era, they were using Windows 3.0, which was very basic, very simple, very convenient. Fast forward to today, you're now using Windows 10, and we are more mobile oriented. Windows has gone in a more mobile direction. Like, people still buy desktops. Like, don't get it twisted, don't get it fooled. People are still building PCs that run Windows 10. But it's more geared towards, I have a Microsoft Surface tablet and I'm connected in this facet and I'm able to do my Word documents, things of that nature, even down to, I believe we talked about it a couple of months ago with Samsung and their keynote, and how you're kind of going to see that merger between Samsung and Microsoft in their products. So I'm going down the line of a lot of things with this, but this is a quick yet simple story. It's not a stretch to say that Microsoft Windows is one of the most ubiquitous and well-known pieces of software the world has ever seen. At one point or another, you've almost certainly spent some time with one of the many iconic Windows releases. And today is the 35th birthday of the one that started it all. Let me go into my favorite conversation. Windows 1.0 was released on November 20th, 1985. Though chances are most of you don't have fond memories of it. If you have memories of it at all, it was received poorly by critics, in part because of Windows 1.0 wasn't an operating system, but more of a GUI tacked on top of MS-DOS. But Windows has come a long way since those humble beginnings, from the highs of Windows 95 and XP to the more infamous versions like Vista, Windows ME, and Windows 8. Not every release has been a hit, but more than 1 billion devices running Windows 10. But with more than 1 billion devices running Windows 10, Microsoft's OS remains a dominant personal computing platform. Sure, mobile may be the future, with more than 2 billion active Android devices out in the wild, but traditional computers aren't going anywhere anytime soon, and it's fair to say that Windows will continue to be a dominant force for years to come. If you know me, you know well enough to know that Vista and ME are always going to be two operating systems that make me cringe, only because they were designed very poorly and very rushed. We really didn't need them, but they were a thing, and it was kind of like a filler of, let's try something out. We tried it, it didn't work, let's go to something else. And that was mainly what gravitated or came from the Windows family at that time. Windows 10, I would say, is probably one of their more stable operating systems. Anyone that knows and loves Windows, you will hear them say they live and die by XP. If you could keep XP on a computer forever, most people would. I thought XP was kind of the stable and solid solution for Windows in its heyday. But of course, with technology and with security vulnerabilities, new versions are going to come out, and it's also more of a money / business move. And I think I talked about this on the last episode. Selling or promoting new operating systems are ways of keeping consumers in ties with devices. So certain computers can be ran up to a certain operating system. For instance, with Mac, I know I'm going away from Windows a little bit, but you'll see what I mean. With Mac, you can upgrade various Macs to a certain version. Like the newer Macs are going to get Big Sur forward, probably for at least the next 3 or 4 years. I know with mine, I was able to get up to Catalina, and that was about all she wrote, which is cool. If you're wanting to get Big Sur, and it's, hey, we need you to get a new, you may want to get a newer computer to be able to run that. In the Windows world, it's the same thing. If you go back and look at any of the older Windows computers, you can't even try to land Windows 10 on any of them because it just won't even handle it. And it's also down to your specs. That's your biggest factor. Is like, can this computer handle this operating system with these specs that you have? And if the answer is no, then you got to make a decision. Do you upgrade and already get a computer with that operating system loaded, or how do you go about buying a PC? Like, I know, and I'm going to say this and then we'll move into our next story. For a long time, my path of purchasing was always buy a computer. It was literally the term, and I think you can still find them now. Buy a bare bone PC, which is a computer that has everything already in it: your motherboard, your RAM, your CD-ROM, if it had a floppy drive, whatever you need to run. And then you just, from there, get your operating system. Because your computer is not going to be what costs you. Your operating system is where you get hit if you're needing a computer for basic usage. Now, when you get into PC gaming, when you get into more of a high-powered computer to do more things, then it becomes your PC is going to be your more important part, and your operating system is just going to come with the territory. or you find ways to get your operating system at a convenient cost. So that's where that evolution with the Office, or not even Office, but with the Microsoft world has gone. And I want to give a shout out. I don't know the exact name of this TikTok page, but there's a TikTok page that is on TikTok that gives you very helpful tips on how to use Google Docs, especially, Google Sheets, which is Google's version of Excel. It gives you different codes or different ways to do different, how can I put it? Formulas. Thank you. My brain left for a second. To do different formulas to complete certain things. Like if you're putting in email addresses and you want to verify that the email address is real or invalid, you have an option to verify that. If you want to get totals, like when we use spreadsheets, we naturally use them to get totals and to get averages, modes, medians, mode, median, mean, things of that nature. But there are other features that those programs have built in that we don't even see at the core. So I just want to tell people about that, or remind you all about that before, as we're carrying and pressing forward into 2021, to utilize those resources accordingly. Our last story I had, the last story I have for stuff, and I'll get in, it'll be a brief music sesh or AirPod escape, and then we'll get into, there's no ass of the week, but I'll give a good pass the message for today. They have officially confirmed that one of the most expensive video games to ever be sold in an auction was a Super Mario Bros. 3 in box. It was rated a 9.2 on its scale. I'm gonna, in the article, is gonna explain the scale. And it was sold for $156,000, which blew. When I saw this article, I was like, no, this is not a real thing. Like, you gotta be kidding me. But people collect these type of items, and they either use it to sell to others, or they may use it to, for their own personal collection, and say, hey, I have a rare, high quality condition of Super Mario Bros. 3. It seems that one Mario fan or collector found something to do with all of these coins they've picked up. Someone bought a rare copy of Super Mario Bros. 3 for $156,000 at auction. The sealed copy of the NES Classic is now the most expensive game ever sold, according to The Verge. It took the record from a copy of Super Mario Bros., which a bidder snapped up in July for $114,000. Bidding for Super Mario Bros. 3 started at $62,500, and 20 bidders tried to get their hands on it. What makes this particular copy so valuable is that it has a rare box design variant. The word Bros is typically on the right, whereas it's on the left of the box, and it covers a bit of Mario's glove. It's the earliest version of the game. My bad. Okay, I was confused. It's the earliest version of the game in Super Mario Bros. 3's production history. It's also in excellent condition with a WATA 9.2 A+ rating for the quality of the box and the seal. The same auction house, Heritage Auctions, sold a WATA 9.0 rated copy of the variant in July for $38,400. The SMB3 sale wasn't the only Nintendo related record set during last week's auction. A copy of Pokemon Red, which had a WATA 9.8 A++ rating, is now the most expensive Pokemon game sold at auction. A bidder plunked down $84,000 for it. Wow. So two things that make this interesting, because I never thought about that, and now it's something that I'm intrigued to look up. Super Mario Bros. 3 is probably one of, like, a lot of people, will always argue which Mario they thought was better. Pick your poison, pick your choice. There's really no right or wrong. Okay, so, and I'm looking at the image now to get a better context of this. Because I want to see. Okay, all right, I see the difference. So on the box, this might be a good way to break this down. So the box that is specifically being sold, or the one in question that was at auction, it's pretty much, it almost looks like Mario is giving the S and the period a high five, right? On the traditional Mario Brothers 3 box, the word bros is directly above Mario's hat. So that's the variation of the difference between the two. I may do a side by side of each one and make that the cover art. We'll see. I might think about that. But yeah, that's all. I shared that because it was just a random story or random information that I had learned or found out about from, just looking up different stories or different things that broke. And so that's where we're at. AirPods Escape, music listen, music sesh, whatever. I did start, and I got a good bit of a listen to Meg's album. It's not a bad album. I like the bit of it that I did listen to. I enjoyed. I found a playlist. This is random, but it's something that may be helpful. It's an older list. It's called Money Mantras or Mantras. It's by Suresh Padmanabhan. If you don't want to listen to the whole playlist, you don't have to. There is a song on it called, Money Signature Tune. And that was what kind of pushed me or gravitated me towards listening to this. So if it's something that, you are trying to get some more inspiration to get some money, just something to check out on your time at your convenience. BTS brought out a new album. If you want to check that out, it's pretty good. The Baby brought out his new single/album called My Brother's Keeper. And let's see if it's anyone else that you all may or may not know or be interested in listening to. I'm not gonna lie, like this week was actually, how could I forget? There were a couple of good songs. Wale brought out a new single, which I did share with a couple people. I believe it's called Fiending. I might be messing it up. While I'm looking up that name, I think that's the name of it. I'm sorry. Let's try it again. Flawed, featuring Gunna. And I also did listen to Jasmine Sullivan's new song. Great. She always, it's very few times she doesn't miss the mark on music. So a couple, those are a few songs or a few gems to check out on your time at your convenience. And that's kind of what I'm going to give you for our music sesh / AirPod Escape. Now pass the message. And as you can see in the title, and it sucks because I always make people do this, you got to listen to the whole show to get where the title comes from a lot of times. And in this case, there's no exception. Life comes full circle. And here's why I'm saying that and why I'm sharing that with you all today. About 2 years ago, we'll say 2.5 years ago, because it was at the beginning of 2018. I was given a book to read. The book was called The Secret. And a friend of mine has that copy of The Secret. The person I then, was sharing with someone else that, I have a copy of The Secret, whatever. And, I might be getting it back. Well, I was able to get another copy, which in my room, all my books are stacked. And the first book on top is The Secret. So I am looking to get back to reading that book again, because it was and it is a great book, and it's very informative of, learning and understanding the law of attraction. What pulled me into reading or getting intrigued about thinking about that book is someone I know asking, their aura, how they attract people or who they attract or what draws their attention. When I first read this book at the time when I was reading it, I really wasn't open to reading it, but I read it while I, needed time to kind of figure things out within my life and within my routine. Reading it where I am now with my journey, it will definitely be a better read and I have a better ear towards it, or a better eye towards it. I guess you could say a better brain too, but whatever. You never know when something happens, how things can become interesting. The reason that I'm putting the title of sharing this as being full circle is the two people who gave me both books, I'm no longer I've recently not had conversation with them in a while. And it's not that they can't find a way to get in contact with me, or it's not a resource or an option on the table to do so. It's just where life has carried us. It's not something that I'm going to force, or I don't see the need to make space for that conversation in hindsight. We never know where people are going to come from or how people are going to come in our lives. We just know when they're here, we value them, and we don't treat them like shit. Sometimes we do, and we don't understand why we did it. But then when we did it, we realize we shouldn't have did it. I've seen this become a norm or routine of mine in learning how to value those who are close to me. And I'm learning how to value their connection, and how I connect with them as well. The message that I'm going to pass today is a little simple, but it requires the work by far. And that is value the connections. I know that you never know who does what or who isn't doing what, but sometimes those connections could be the connections that can get you to that next place. And I'll give another story, and then I'm going to wrap it up. A few weeks ago, I made a change in my workflow, my work schedule. And at first, when I made that change, I didn't know what I was doing, where it was going to go, what it was about. I was just considering, hey, someone else wanted to make a change, and I'm also in need of a change, so it works out and it's all good. Didn't put a lot of thought behind it. It opened doors and it opened my brain a little bit, because now it's me reminding myself and realizing that I've been on this path of sharing and stating to others, take your time, but don't waste your time. So I'm learning more to not waste time. I've had a conversation with one of the guys who, like the person who I switch shifts with, we would always make jokes and have good conversation, but we also would have like business conversations that never seemed business oriented, but they were. And so to experience that, and then one of the other girls who works in the area with us, I just, when you talk to people and when you become more comfortable and realizing like what's what, you're like, okay, let's really unpack this and really, help you get to what you're trying to do. And also not feel like I'm not carrying I'm not bringing a valuable gift to the table, because I know what I bring to the table. And that's not me being cocky. That's not me being arrogant. That's me being upfront and real about it. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what others see in what I'm able to bring to the table. And it's not that whole, I'm bringing the table. No, that analogy need to be thrown in the trash. That's just my take. But anywho, as we talked, and this young lady was sharing her business plans and her business ideas, and I'm like, oh, so you really are, you are in it and you're invested and you're pressing. And then it helps me realize, hey, this is that point of really getting people to get in that discomfort yet comfortable place of knowing who they are and what they have. And I just ask the simple questions like, hey, are you doing this? Have you put this time into this? And it's like, no, I haven't. And I'm like, okay. Like, are you taking that time to try to do that? Or are you working on that? And it's like, now it becomes that, okay, now what I'm sharing with this person is what people have been sharing with me. So it's, using those networks. And when I say using those networks, it's not use people for what they have, but it's utilize the resources that others bring to the table. So if you know people who are good at certain things, you should be talking to those people on a consistent basis. If you know people who are good at giving you advice on how to listen, take heed to what they're sharing. If you know people who are good at helping you in branding, take heed to what they're sharing. Because what they could be sharing might be something that could benefit you in the long haul. And that's not as easy for everyone as we think it is, but it's helpful to look at how important that becomes and bringing it all back home. So the full circle breakdown is just on a hit of, you never know who you may see at what point in your life. But even if you may or may not see that person again, it's not that you sent them off with a bad energy, with a bad aura. It didn't work at the time when it did. Maybe it could come back around, maybe it won't. But you can't let that staple you or box you into a position or a place. And that's what I'm gonna leave y'all with today. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday week. If you already have started your time off and relax. I won't call that holiday what it is. A lot of people have said it, and I get it, and it's just a mental tradition. But I'm not calling it the other term. I'm just gonna call it a mark on the calendar. And those who are rocking with me, if I do pull up and get a plate, don't act brand new. Just come in and snack and chill. No, but for real, I'm definitely gonna try to make my do my networking and converse with folks, because this is definitely, whether people realize it or not, this has been a trying season. And it's not just a season that's in fall or spring. It has been a trying season as in this entire year has been trying. This entire year has been trying on everyone, whether they realize it or not. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. As always, we will have another show. We'll be in December. So I'm going to see how I'm going to do this year in review, whether I'm going to do like I do every year and just take a break on podcasting for the month and just drop the year in review podcast. We'll see, because it always comes at a good point, and then we always end up with good content in the end. So I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to let y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, y'all night, y'all evening, y'all morning, y'all lives. Enjoy it. Live it. Like, make life yours. Take it easy. Pat signing out.
Really appreciate all the support, all the listens, all the likes, all the effort that goes into anyone who has provided any form of content for the past. We're signing out now, but you definitely don't want to miss what's in store for the upcoming episode. If you are interested in getting more information or becoming a podcaster, you can check out buzzsprout.com. And the microphone that you are hearing me use is the Blue Yeti X. I had been using a Yeti for a while. I went back to the Samson Meteor, but now I'm using the Blue Yeti X, which is everything. Trust me. All social medias, the Pass BT
Pod.
That's THE Pass, as in pass the ball. BT is my initials.
Pod.
And finally, if you are a creator and you want to support a fellow creator, subscribe, like, and comment on the Pass. Until next time, this is your host BT signing out.